Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Ah, boy, I have to tell you, I am over the left compared to where I was 2 weeks ago and the last 2 weeks, Mary. I am, when I say he's back, let me tell you something. I cannot believe how more clear headed I have energy. I can move. I can do things. Um, I've been sick really bad without that medicine for 2 weeks. Oh, and guess what they called me this morning?
It's
The
in?
order, my original order came in. So like I say, I know what they did is they gave me their sample uh, supplies. So, anyways, I I'm just thrilled. I'm just feeling so much better. And there there is a difference when you can take medications that the doctor prescribes and they find out to work for you and help you with your health. It's really important to stay on them because if you don't, you can get sick. And I was sick. I have a lot of people say that about me, anyways. I am expecting Rick to hop on here. He and Brenda have actually been working. They're really, they're having the grand opening of his brother-in-law's little restaurant out there, a little breakfast and lunch. The Arizona Thistle, Southern food brought to Arizona, and I'm sure he's been sending you the pictures. And anyways, the one thing that looked good on the menu were these giant pancakes. Did you see them?
No.
Oh, I'm telling you. I talked to him about that. They really look good. They're fluffy. They must be an inch thick. They three stack of them would be like about 6 inches tall on a plate. I do like pancakes.
That's what we made for dinner last night was pancakes.
Ah, I am still loyal to Aunt Jemima, even though they made them name it's
No, no,
fun.
no. They brought her back.
Yeah. Well, they've not only brought her back, they're reinstating, what they did with their woke crap. That woman, she was came out of poverty to become somebody, and she was known as a celebrity. It was a positive thing for her being Aunt Jemima, and it was not there was nothing negative about her being the spokes representative of for the pancake company. It grew to be one of the most popular, successful pancake company in the world.
And the funny thing is that, her granddaughter, um, or her grandson actually fought for her to stay on there.
I know there was a lot of discussion and a lot of feedback, or there was a lot of pushback by a lot of people that said, "What are you doing? You're dishonoring this woman." It's like them taking the Indian off the Land O'Lakes butter. How is that honoring the how is that dishonoring her being on the butter? How is it dishonoring Indians? And these people, their thinking is so whacked out. Anyways, it's just a couple minutes before noon, so at noon we will launch. Do you want to do an introduction, or do you want me to do one today, Mary?
They I actually grew up with down the road from where Lando Lakes was actually made.
I wondered about that. I just thought maybe you do, Land Lakes.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Land Lakes. You had Uncle Ben's rice. Same stupid thing they did with with him, that was another product line attached with an individual that his face and his persona has been promoted and accepted in the marketplace. There's nothing negative about that. It was negative them trying to destroy and take him off the product.
You know what's funny? Like when you're talking about Land O'Lakes. So the actual label with the
Yes,
background
yes.
was actually created by a Native American man. It wasn't ever a cultural thing. It was an Ojibwe tribe, an actual chief actually drew all that marketing label out. The Native American population uh, okayed it.
It's just as crazy as them changing the football team, the Washington Redskins, and all the Indian tribes from the area all were against them just taking the name and going. What they became, the Commanders or something? It had nothing to do with you know. I
I
think
stopped following football when it became political. The whole point of watching football was to forget about politics and what was going on in the world and watch a bunch of men beat each other up. Now I watch NASCAR.
well they've been beating each other up forever. you know, the rebel has had his share of fights over the years.
Hey, I got my NASCAR and I got my WWE until they all become political.
well,
And I play video games to deal with lack of violence. I blow things up for fun.
That's your army coming out. Hello, everyone.
It is,
hey, reporting for duty, sir.
which
Ho,
is
hi,
why Andy will not play those Call of Duty games with me because mom does military training and actually methodically does what you're supposed to do and here comes Andy, my husband, bulldozes right out the middle and gets shot and killed.
Well, what an
Nope.
introduction and excitement to starting the Tuesday edition of the Optimize Your Life Golden Rule radio shows, brought to you by the Golden Rule and the Hope Collection. We want to welcome everybody that's tuning in or going to be tuning in to us. Today, I have the privilege and the honor to introduce you to a co-sponsor, co-worker with the Hope Collection, the treasurer of the Hope Collection, but a gentleman and his wife Brenda who have become pioneers in the travel industry, not just being involved, but actually pioneers in developing the programs that have moved the travel industry in a whole new level, whole new world. In the late 80s, early 90s, there was a revolution that went on. And if you think back, there used to, when you go to the mall or you go to a plaza, there used to be these little stores and they had walls with brochures on the wall. And there were about three or four or five desks. And then usually somebody there on a phone and they're putting together and they're getting brochures and they're trying to help people plan their dreams, help them plan their honeymoons, helping them plan their historical learning groups, how to go across anywhere around the world. And there were people that lived and worked in these brick and mortar places, and then suddenly the internet hit the world, and it changed drastically the way that people are able to travel. And if there was a time when there was so much turmoil in doing that, and there was a lot of confusion, but today, thanks to a gentleman, his name is Coach Tomer, and a group of family, other friends and members, and Chris Coakley, the organization is involved and they brought people, leaders on board who could help and have helped us to get. It's like having a GPS for travel. That is travel. If you go down the street in the old days, you used to have to stop in the five a dime or the grocery store or the little gas mini mart to ask somebody for directions. Of course, us guys didn't want to do that, so we always had fights with our wives. And while this gentleman helped reduce the number of divorces in the world, because what he did is he created the program that put satellites using GPS. The system that tells you where to go, like your wife did before, but now you got a GPS. It's not as personal. But anyways, Rick worked the program and guided us to have this GPS on your phones and your cars wherever you go. And now you can put your address where you've been, where you're going, and pop it in there. And 3 days later, when you come back, you can just push the button again and automatically find your way back. And so, what Rick has done in the travel industry, Rick and his wife Brenda, they have developed the processes whereby today travel is more accessible than it's ever been. And on top of that, you can actually have access as a career. It's an incredible, there's this word going around to describe what people do. The full time job, the brick and mortar, and go to work and sit in 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. A lot of companies are demanding people come to the office. People don't want to go in an office. They want to work on their own when they want. Well, the travel industry lets you do that. And Rick and his wife have developed programs and processes with leadership. Chris Coakley and Scott Tomer and the family have just developed this company, Surge 365, a side development. It was a Vortex tool that allows you to be and own and learn, make money, a lifestyle, an income in the travel industry. You want to travel, you want to travel, well, why not make it a career that makes you lots of money and travel too? Rick, we're so glad to have you on board today. I know somehow you found yourself from Colorado to Charleston, and now you're out in the desert.
Yes, I am. In Page, Arizona.
Tell us
And
about that.
who ever heard of Page, Arizona? And
Not me.
they should have heard of Page, Arizona, because there's so much here. Natural wonders that are just amazing. And
If you watch cheesy
huh?
Hallmark movies, you'll hear about it a lot.
Yeah, it's that kind of town. It really is that kind of town. And but there is so much. It's an ideal place for a person in travel. It's a town of 5,000, but last year 5 million people made their way through. Imagine that.
Now
A
there's 5
town,
million and one.
a
Two.
thousand, a town, two, a town of 5,000 and travelers from around the world, more so international than national in the states, and because they have different companies, tour companies that are going out and going to different expos around the world and saying, "Hey, come see us," and they're coming from around the world. And in fact, I should be going on a tour tomorrow to see the Antelope Canyon, where the walls are just, I mean, of this cave or cavern, beautiful colors. I mean, just amazing how God's nature and the natural, way that this is all formed. And I mean, the colors are just amazing. I don't know if you. I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures of the Antelope Canyon. If you get a chance, Google Antelope Canyon, Page, Arizona. It will blow you away. It will blow you away. And so we're supposed to be going on a tour tomorrow. My brother started a restaurant here. He opened a restaurant, and they renovated a building and opened for business. I think February, and he had his first $10,000 day this past Saturday. 760 people made their way through. His food is amazing. I mean, it really absolutely is amazing. And he called us about, I guess now, about a little 11 days ago. It says, "Hey, Rick and Brenda, I need you guys." And we're just minding our own business in Charleston, South Carolina, kind of living a retired life, traveling. Was planning a cruise to the Mediterranean. Not sure if that's going to happen now. Would have loved to been on the Hope cruise, which we'll hear a little bit about later. That run that you just set up, and it's going to be amazing. And but he calls us and says, "Hey, I need you guys to come out and help me." and I need you to help me to manage the front of the house. With the waitresses and the hostesses and all, the table, the food runners and the buses, and to get that all up and organized. And he had it, but it needed a little bit of management. And so we said, sure. 3 days later, he bought us one-way tickets. Now, it's a labor of love. We didn't have to, but, family has to help family. 3 days later, we find ourselves in Page, Arizona. He says, I've got a house, place for you to stay, transportation. And, we ain't thinking anything of it. So when we arrive, he drives us to the house. I mean, it's a beautiful, newly built home. I mean, we could actually live here. And Airbnb kind of, but it's an actual home.
Rick,
Throws
aren't
me.
you driving around in a Conestoga wagon?
When I look out the window, that's what I see going across the desert, and throws me the keys to his BMW Sport. He says, "Rick, this is your transportation," and we're like, "Wow!" But then we show up for work, 5:30. Yep, get there about 6:30. And Ron, you always get on me for lunch or breakfast at noon.
Is this AM or PM?
Oh, yeah, yeah. A.M.
So Rick's going back to his military. Oh wait, never mind. He's Air Force. They don't get up at 0600.
No, we don't get up at dark 30. Actually, when I worked shift work, I did, but long story. and and but you know what though? Here's the deal. Today is Travel Tuesday. We've been in the travel business since 2004, and we came in just to travel. 2005, I let my boss go. I had to let him go. He was cramping my lifestyle. Brenda's like, "What? You had to let him go?" Yes. And so went full time into travel, full time. We use a network marketing model, multi-level marketing model, which is the most efficient way to move product. Don't let the corporate folks lie to you. They're using the same model, making themselves rich at the top. For us, this model is an accounting system that identifies who does the work, multiple levels. No matter where you are, it will identify you and will pay you. So instead of that money going to the top and the corporate folks, these are people helping people and helping people train and helping people build. But anyhow, I go volunteer in the community, and I pass on the torch. It's word of mouth advertising. This guy wants a business. He comes on board. He makes a ton of money. Well, the compensation plan allowed me to override, by helping him and training him, and launching him. I go into the community and I'm able to be sustained in the community. A lot of people are looking to get into their passion. This is a business that allows you to do your passion, pass on a torch to someone else who's looking for an opportunity. They may be looking for a business opportunity. They may be looking to save money on their travel. And they may be an organization that needs a fundraiser. Pass the torch. And then you override that and you launch into your. Man, that is the most amazing thing. So I did that. It took me through 2008 when the economy went up and down, up and down. It brought me through COVID, best time of my life. Of course, hats off and hand over the heart for all the folks who had a tough time. But it brought me through because of decisions that I made early on to be self-sustained, to have a business opportunity. And all that time, the travel industry was growing and growing and increasing and increasing, even through all of it. Yeah, it took a bump during 9/11, but you know what? It didn't stop. The next day, business has to move. People still have to move. And so it took me through all of that. Fast forward to 11 days ago when my brother calls me and says, "You guys got to come out and help me." And he had reached that point of breakthrough at the restaurant where he really, really, really needed our help and trust and business skills. Surge 365 positioned me to drop everything that I was doing. And because I'm all mobile in all the things that I'm doing, and get on a one-way flight and come to Page, Arizona. And we've been here now for 11 days. Ron, I haven't missed a beat in Surge because it's internet, it's mobile. I haven't missed a beat in the other businesses that I'm doing and supporting because they're all mobile. If a person doesn't position themselves either now or for in the future,
Good
they
afternoon.
will work till they die, or they will work till they get let go.
Get away from the broadcast
Because
center.
every job has a shelf
Thanks for
life.
calling back. How are you guys doing? You have a nice Easter?
I sure did.
It's less than 2 weeks. You'll be on the boat. I know. And so the guests now,
Hey,
things are.
Barry, I could have a conversation with Ron.
You want to
And had a great Easter. In fact, the folks that we were over their home
anyways,
this
I
past Easter,
show
they
me
have the tour company.
travel today.
And we're, yeah, we've been here, but all we've seen was inside of this restaurant. And they're like, we need to take you on a tour. Yes, you do. So tomorrow we're going on a tour. But a person, Ron, you need to mute your phone. Ron.
Oh, yes, I will get him. Ron, Ron.
Yeah, you if you like to help with that.
And so if a person doesn't plan to be mobile,
The trip.
they're in trouble. They're in trouble because they've got to work. Now, Mary, your business is mobile, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
that you
I
can work
spend
from
more
anywhere.
time working off my cell phone in the car than I do at home on my butt.
And isn't that awesome?
Oh,
Now,
it's great.
did you plan that or did that just by default happen?
Um, it was kind of both. So, I didn't realize the level that I could do mobile, but it made it nice because then I could be outside watching my kids, making sure they don't escape. I have 2, so I have autistic kids. My son is an eloper, which means he sees something shiny, he just kinda walks. And so this way I can be out there watching them or they're in the pool or something and I can still work. It's not where I have to hire someone to watch them so I can work.
It's amazing because the importance of that we can't even understate. The importance of being mobile and having a mobile business. If you're listening to us right now, the job that you're in will end someday.
Yes.
They'll either let you go or you'll let them go. Whichever comes first, right? Because it has a shelf life. They'll say you're too old. They'll come up with some excuse. That's probably the worst feeling ever, is being let go for any reason. Have you ever been let? Well, Mary, you were military, so we wouldn't let you go.
I was let go on disability in the military, and I was considered unhirable in the workforce when I tried to get a job at McDonald's flipping burgers. Because
Not
according
making
to the
you.
manager at McDonald's, I had no real work experience.
Oh, geez.
Wow. So you started a business.
So I had kids and started a business. I actually started many businesses. The first thing I actually did when I first got out and something to do was I sew for fun. So I created a business repairing clothes in the middle of nowhere, small town Minnesota.
Good.
Wow. How long were you doing that?
I still do it off and on. Like I volunteer my services during homecoming and prom season for kids who have need prom dresses but can't afford them, so they get free ones, and they need them altered.
Wow, wow,
So,
that's
yeah, my
amazing.
husband, twice a year walks in our house, and we have a house full of teenage girls.
Hmm.
He's learning what it's gonna be like in a couple years.
Linda, have you ever been in business for yourself other than like now?
Yes, actually, um, when when we were first married, we lived about 80 miles south of here. Actually, other than no, really, I shouldn't say yes. I was thinking about let go of it from a job, um, but having our own
You've been
business.
let go from a job
I was
with your talent and your skills and
Oh,
your
I have
ability.
to I have to tell you, it was there was a company, a furniture company, and they were converting from manual, all these women doing all this manual input to a computerized. My job was to put all the data into the computer. And as soon as I was done, all those other women would be fired. Well, that was I was 21 years old, and it was the worst working because they all hated me because they knew the minute I finished
Oh,
my portion, they'd all be out of a job. It was the
wow.
most stressful, but so almost when I was done, I got fired because my that part was done and everyone. So, but that was
So
the
you
only.
didn't know you were included in that.
No, no, no. I thought I would be, working on the computer then. So, but that was bizarre. But oh my gosh, talking about a bad situation that, um, you know, everybody at work hating you. That was bizarre.
So
That
you
was
had no friends.
especially for a 21-year-old just moved. We were just married.
That's traumatic.
It was wild. But that was the only time I've ever been let go of a job, you know. So
I let myself go from a job
yes.
with MCI Telecom,
Uh-huh.
and WorldCom came in and bought out MCI and of course destroyed the company, the whole WorldCom thing,
Mm,
and destroyed the company, and so they started letting people go, and I was pretty secure in my position, and one of the guys that a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey Rick, we're starting another company and wanted you to come over and be our program manager or products manager. Would you do that?" And so I'm there. And my position was pretty secure, relatively speaking. And but a lot of people around me were getting let go.
mm,
And so when he made that offer, I'm like, you know what? I think I'll do that. And that way I can save a good friend of mine's position. You know, don't fire her. I'm going to leave, and she can take my place. And so I said, sure, let me go ahead and do that. And so I talked to my boss. He says, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to put her name and let them know that you're leaving, and I'm going to put her name so we can keep her. And so the guy that I was talking to, my friend, he was out of town and talking to another vice president in LA. We were in Colorado. And so he was out of town, and I couldn't get a hold of him to let him know my decision, what I was going to do. Yes, I accept that position. And so, but God puts you in different places to move you, right? But anyhow, so here's the story. I lose my job there at MCI in like 10 days, from that point, and I'm trying to get a hold of the guy. He finally gets back, and I said, "Hey, I accept what you offered, and I already put my paperwork in to leave." And he says, "Oh, Rick, you didn't make a real time decision based on our discussion, did you?"
mm. Oh no.
And I said, first of all, my heart like sunk.
Yeah.
And I lost my breath for a minute. I said, yeah, based on our discussion. He said, oh, Rick, I just got back from LA, and the vice president group out there, they want to open it up to the general public.
Oh,
So we've got to advertise that position. I can't just give it to you.
oh no.
He said, but you can submit a resume
Oh,
along with the other thousands of people.
yes,
And
yes.
I'm like, oh my Lord, what did I just do? Oh Lord, how do I tell Brenda? But what happened is, and of course, everything is kind of spiritual. There I was just in my comfort zone. And the Lord was actually moving me to another place.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't willing to go. And so I was hoodwinked. I was set up. And I found myself the odd man out. But sometimes it takes that, because when that happened, it made me start thinking more entrepreneurial
Mm, mhm.
versus traditional. And shortly thereafter, actually a little bit thereafter, business came along. I've been in a couple of businesses before Surge,
Mhm.
and I started just reaching out and saying, "Hey, I can do this. I've got a skill set."
Yes.
Sometimes you have to be forced. Ay, 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 but that feeling, oh man, when he said, I've got to advertise this, you can compete like everybody else. Oh man, that was such. See, people are going through that now, in
Mhm.
that uncertainty. Will I have a job? Won't I have a job? My recommendation would be put a plan B in place.
Yes, always.
Just in case. Put a plan, and don't just pick anything. We talked travel on Tuesday, but what is your niche? What is your thing? You can stay in your area of passion if you want. Travel is just a lot of fun, but put a plan B in place so it won't be so devastating.
Yes, yes.
I was devastated.
Build when you don't need it, so it will be there when you do need it.
Ooh, that's some good words. Those are excellent, good words. Build when you don't need it, so it'll be there when you need it.
Yes.
Man, you need write that down, folks. Write that down. Those, you learn from experience, and it's so nice to hear from people who have had experiences. And a lot of times you can avoid yourself a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, because the thing that you refuse to do, someday you may have to.
Yes, yes.
I know some people are like, I'm never getting in business for myself. I don't wanna. Then they get laid off and they're like, oh Lord, what am I going to do? But we've had fun in travel. We've had fun
Well,
in the travel business. Go ahead.
you know that the newest trend is actually seniors that are retired are creating their own small businesses with what they used to do for something to do.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm impressed with you, Mary, because you created a business from a personal experience, your children.
Yeah. And
What did you,
actually, how it even started was I found a coach that was willing to help me understand neurodiversity and autism, but she wanted so much money. She wanted $20,000 a child to help me.
oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, a year. And that wasn't even for the supplements and all the other stuff. That was literally just her to teach me to work with my own kids.
What a vulture. No,
Yeah.
I said that,
No,
but is that true?
yeah. And so when I asked her, I go, "I'm ex-military." I was still wait I mean, I literally just got out of the military a couple months prior or, a year prior to that. fully discharged out, so I was still waiting on my disability go through and all. It's not an instant process. I go, I'm a government employee. I don't make that much in a year.
Right.
I don't make, $40,000 is a lot of money a year. And I got two special needs kids. My money's gone. And I go, can you break it down to payments? And even her payment plan options were more than what I got a month. I'm like, you're nuts. And then when I told her I couldn't afford it, she's like, I can't help you. So
Oh my
that's when I knew
God.
she was in for money.
Wow. Wow. So how did you make that transition to business?
So I started taking classes thanks to COVID that were available in Australia, in Norway, and things that would normally you would have to be there to do. And the therapist that I was seeing personally for all the things going on in my life at the time said, you should become a life coach. You're really good at understanding how people think and how things work. And so I started out working strictly just on veterans and individuals with severe traumatic events. I worked with a lot of women that were trafficked. And once I learned more and got my credentials and understood autism and watched my kids actually improve and overcome, that's when we flipped the script. And now I work more with autism and teaching families how to understand it. My kids were my guinea pig. So now, like, even my tagline is I've tried it on my own kids first. I won't
Wow,
teach you anything that I wouldn't do with my own.
that's good.
And now she does it on us, Rick.
She has grown guinea pigs. That's too funny. Now, reason why we're laughing, we both believe it. It's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah, it's Ron. So, Ron, when did you? I know you said you pumped gas. You was a bouncer at a club. When
At
did
a
you become
club,
so
yeah.
entrepreneurial?
Well, you're talking about backgrounds. Is that I just got
Just
back.
becoming entrepreneurial, and when you
Well,
made that move.
I started out young. What started me out in working was when I was about 14. Right that year, that winter, the big hot thing were for teenager guys was these cowhide, big fluffy lamb's fur jackets. Remember them? They were like brown, tan, and orangey tan jacket. It was a rancher's jacket, and that became the cool jacket to have. I went to my mom and said, "Hey, mom, I hope figured she'd get me one or I'd get it for Christmas or something." She said, "Oh, I got an idea, sure." And she took me. We got that day took me around to different businesses, and she said, "I'll go in there and ask them for work, see if they need help." And so I did. I ended up getting a job at my uncle's, one of his garages, gas stations that he had. I got a job pumping gas. And when I got back in the car that day, she said, "Now see, when you've worked, you'll have the money to buy your jacket."
That's nice.
So
You
that
know,
was when I was a kid. I used to run circuses in our backyard for Cerebral Palsy. They used to have a program with Commander Tom television show, and you'd raise funds in your backyard, having little shows and create all kinds of games for kids to play. And I was kind of like the king leader in the town. So my entrepreneurialism came early on in my life. Later, when we got married, I was in retail management, and I believed in promotion. I learned it from the ground up. Had some very basic teachings, and then when I kept going up the ladder, so to speak. And one time, my neighbor came to me and said, "Well, I'm a J.C. Penney manager," and I thought, "Oh my goodness, that was going to be the crowning achievement, success to get to become a JC manager, a gold. I got a gold badge, Rick, and that just meant I could clean the Johns out after work when the store closed. Uh, but I was in jail in that, and I was successful in that area, and I did several promotions. I introduced. Remember when Silverstone cookware became so popular? J.C. Penney was one of the leading companies. That was a special non-stick Teflon that didn't scrape off. And we were buying an imported French product at no margin. You didn't make any money on it. I didn't know the company had a big trade deal with the company, not with the stores. So the company made money, and the stores, which we were supposed to make money, well, that wasn't smart. So I went and got a deal put together with the West Bend Pan Aluminum Company in Ohio, and we doubled sales of what we were selling at T-Fell and tripled the profit. I had my
Wow.
name in lights one day in the company wide, Ryan Clayton, Buffalo, New York. That time was Jamestown, New York. And we did incredible. It sold thousands of dollars worth of stuff. I had a gal do a demonstration. She'd come and burn an egg or took cheese, Velveeta cheese and burned it in the pan, showed how it did steak, did all that stuff. And we just created ways for people and it became exciting. I used to thrive on doing things like that. We had a program for kids where we had the Air Force brought remember when the F-14 airplane came out, Tom Cruise later when the Top Gun movie, we had an F-14 delivered to the parking lot at the mall I worked at. And then we had a big flying little gas airplanes that, you build planes out of balsa. And then there was a company that made plastic ones with the mounted on the gas, and you fly airplanes on a string or radio controlled. And we had a big program. I had the Army did a drop with helicopters and big. So I created a big promotion celebration. I love doing that stuff, and I still do. And so it just helped us get into this idea that in our life, and we came to, and our faith became real. We met some people like Joel Griffin and later on Rick and Brenda Reese that changed our understanding of how faith needed to run our lives. And the center of that faith was our love and our respect and our acceptance of Jesus Christ. And I'm proud of that, and I share that with you today. And not preaching in any way, but it is just a statement, a part of our life. And we learned what it meant to serve. And as we learned more about the more we served, the more our life was enriched. And then I found out that you could do that so incredible in the travel industry to put a smile on someone's face. We've had people that had funerals that they had to get to some other place around the country, and they had no clue. They didn't have the money to get an airplane. We've actually had people get on trains and go and be able to travel by bus or train to make that connection to go to a loved one's funeral. But
Wow.
learning to help fill people's heart, that's just what we live for. And this platform, this tool, has empowered us and given us the privilege and the ability to do that on a daily basis.
That's awesome. That's wow. What a story. You need to write a book.
I'm living a book, yes.
If you were to write a book, what would you title it? Of everything thus far, I know what
Voted
I would title it. I would
voted
title it
never no, the title of the book, we voted never to succeed in life. That's what
my
somebody
title.
wrote.
My
That's
title
what
for your
somebody
book.
wrote in my yearbook.
I know. I know. So sad. My title for your book is "Get Her Done."
Yeah, get it done, son.
Yeah, get her done, son.
We're still doing that.
I know. That's why it's a chapter. Everything is a chapter.
Well, do you
And
remember, Rick, when you came to Buffalo? And that's a whole story in itself, and
oh
how
man,
God just put everything together to make it happen. That's why you always say these words to us. When it's God's time, things come together, and it happens every single time. And a couple years back, we had been working for several years to help get a statue, a memorial dedicated called the African American Veterans Memorial. And we've been working for years to put that together. And then COVID hit and it created, all kinds of issues for everybody. So we never were able to pull that off. But after that process, an opportunity came up that we were able to bring the original Top Gun, Len Kane, to be a keynote speaker, a Memorial Day service with national radios and television stations covering the presentation and the program at the Naval Park. And right next to where that presentation was made, the dedicated statue that we worked to put together And it's funny how the travel industry and what you shared with us changed lives and helped lives. They needed money to pay for that statue and that whole memorial. And they didn't have any. And then they had a big celebration, a black tie affair at a big Marriott hotel. And Lynn and I were the original hosts to the celebrities and the programs. And we donated a honeymoon trip to Niagara Falls. We do live in the honeymoon capital of the world. And we gave a package, weekend package escape for a honeymoon package, a suite overlooking the falls, the Horseshoe Falls in Canada, and dinner at the Keg Steakhouse, a spa day for the wife, and free party, a whole package. They auctioned that gift that we gave put up for to the people that came to the event honoring Van Taylor, the guy who was kind of coordinated everything. And they raised 15 grand, which was the beginning of being able to pay for that monument. And so
Wow.
that was where the terms "get her done, son" came around.
Wow. And it still is there.
It's there.
And
It's
it
historic.
keeps rearing its beautiful head.
Yep. Well, it's testimony. There was never a monument in this area dedicated anywhere in the United States of America, but it exists today.
You know, the trip when we came out there for that whole ceremony and Len Kane speaking during Memorial Day, and they planted. How many flags was that, Mary? That they planted for Memorial Day that year?
2,500, one for
20.
every soldier that would commit suicide a day.
And so the timing, like you said, God's timing was perfect. We had just come off, I think, Brenda's little birthday trip to New York and
Wedding.
Florida and somewhere else.
Get a
And
wedding.
oh yeah,
Oh,
the whole
before
thing was
and after.
the whole thing was around the wedding, huh? And my niece's wedding in Brooklyn. And Ron said, I said, and so I had already booked the tickets for all those stops and booked the ticket to fly back to Colorado. Oh no, we had to go to Boston for an anniversary for a family reunion. And so from Boston to Denver, I'd already booked the ticket. And I'm talking to Ron, and Ron says, "Well, what are your dates?" And I give him my dates, and he says, "Well, we're having it on this date. You got plenty of time." And I had already booked the flight, of course, it's Southwest Airlines, so you can change it. Do you know it was cheaper to go to Buffalo and from Buffalo to go to Denver than to go to Denver directly from Boston? And so there was no way that I could pass that up with the opportunity to be there to hear Lynn Kane speak at the Memorial Day service. And then Ron gets us a jacuzzi stay at what's that restaurant hotel?
Russell's Steaks and More.
Russell Steaks and More. And he says, Rick, you're going to really love the room. Brenda's going to really love the room. And the rooms are so awesome. And that's an incredible place. And he's an incredible gentleman. And but each room has a jacuzzi. And I'm like, what? Wow, wow. And so
In
we
the
were
bed.
just in the bedroom. And we were like, wow, wow. And everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. Then, of course, he took us to Canada and Niagara Falls. And so we were able to see the falls from the American side and went across and saw it from the Canadian side. And Linda was out there. Of course, Ron, you was making sure we had the car wouldn't be towed or anything. So you kind of stayed with the car. But Linda came over, and we were looking at Niagara Falls from the Canadian side, which is a much better view. Then we went to what was that town where we had they had the bakery?
Niagara on the Lake.
Niagara on the Lake. And went to that bakery. Oh man, they had everything you could think of. They had the what do you call
Butter
them?
tarts.
The
Butter tarts.
buggy tarts, and of course we got the what is it, man? The ones that they have in Portugal. The
Oh,
custard, the
yeah,
custard tart.
custard. Yes.
Oh man, and they were so good. But you talk about a good time. We got everything in. And of course, hearing Captain Lynn Kane, Top Gun, Navy Top Gun, hearing him speak on kindness, and then Mary coming down from Nebraska? No, not Nebraska. Minnesota,
Yeah, you
Medford,
betcha.
Medford, Minnesota,
The
and
boats up in the lakes by, Minnesota.
Minnesota, and her trip came together so awesomely because the Boy Scout troop in Medford, Minnesota, said, "Hey, we want to help plant the flags." Mary, talk about that and how that happened.
So we literally had 90 days to plan, organize, fund, raise money to fund, and get our bus to Buffalo. We raised in that time period $2,500.
Wow,
That was garage sales, that was pancake breakfast, that was
Hey,
support of our communities.
amazing!
And we got there, we did tours, we got to do different things, but then we got to teach a group of children what Memorial Day really was. We live in a small town, so we don't have the big Memorial Day events out here. We have a couple legions that do the flag raising and, the ceremony, but to really be able to teach these kids at a whole new level what Memorial Day is for and be part of something that is huge.
Wow,
My kids still talk about it today.
that's amazing.
and they were so wonderful to be a part of it. And actually, it was like the torch being turned, from the old to the young. When they said the pledge on stage at the memorial service, and they
Wow,
represented with such pride and dignity, and they were just, it was wonderful. It was a moving service.
that was a moving service, and then Lynn Kane's message on kindness: just be kind. As his mother told him when he first went into the military as a coal miner's son, way back when, as he leaves the house, he said, "Be kind." What a message to tell your kid that can take them through anything if you're just kind. You'll make friends, you'll attract solutions, you'll be a problem solver. People will let you in, into their hearts, into their lives, and he still is kind to this day. Talk about take a message. And then Mary's daughter, Ariana, what did she do with the kindness, Mary?
She created a program that is now in over 1,000 schools in the US called the Kindness Club.
Now,
And
how
we have
old is she?
now she was 5 when she created it, and she's now 10. So 5 years, we've reached over 1,000 schools. We've also incorporated work with a lot of different law enforcement divisions, such as the Minnesota State Troopers, that are teaching the program as well at different events.
It's amazing how one action can, and it's like at Christmas when you have the Christmas light a candle, the candlelight Christmas Eve service when the room's dark and you light one candle and then you pass it on. Everybody's got a candle, and when it's everybody has their candle lit, the room lights up. What we're doing in this world through the things that we're doing, both through the Hope Collection, Golden Rule Society, work with the Kindness Club with Captain Len Kane, with the different aspects of how we are making a difference in travel and improving people's lives. We're adding light in this world. We're making the world a better place.
Ron, you say that, what comes to my mind is that is the mission of life. For me, yeah, this is Travel Tuesday, but the travel for me is how do I sustain the things that I'm passionate about, as opposed to, having to get a job to make money, da 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 da. But to have a tool such as Search 365 to not only use to save money, make money, but also to sustain me in the places, in the areas of my life that I really care about. And a lot of times people don't get that. When we're sharing Travel Tuesday and we're talking about Surge, they're just focused, oh, yeah, it's a business. It's not that, even though it is. It's what do you want to do in life, walking in purpose, on purpose. What do you want to do? Now, once you got that, what's the business tool that best matches my personality, my passions, da da da, that also has relevance in this world economy where they care about that now I can make money at it and live out the passion. That's living. When a person actually can find that balance, now they're living. Brenda and I have found that balance as the Lord has guided and prospered and led us. We found that balance. That is a beautiful place. Why? Because it's freedom. We all seen Braveheart, right? Freedom! It's freedom. It's freedom from a system, that says you've got to be this, you've got to do that. And when you get this age, you've got to be here, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You must retire. You must go live on a farm somewhere. You must live, all the skills that you still have. Elderly people, active adults, they're saying you're done. And they have all these skill sets. They have so much life left to live. We're just getting started, right? We come here in Page, Arizona to this restaurant. They're tapping into everything we ever knew, right? From business management, from when we were in Amway. Hey, when I was in Amway back in the 80s, like most people were, I sold security systems door to door. I sold water treatment systems door to door. I installed the security systems and water treatment systems in homes.
Me too.
Didn't have a clue what I was really doing because when you back in those days there wasn't wireless.
Right.
You had to run a wire, and I'm like, okay, let's see, where should we best run this wire? Wires all over the house, right? I also had a locksmith business where I changed out locks and I installed locks on doors and new home builds and patio door locks. And the most amazing, incredibly fearful kind of time was when someone wanted a new lock and they had a new door and I had to drill the holes in their new door. I mean, some of these doors are so expensive. And please go through. Come from the other side. Please match up. This one lady on our first job run, we were there and we had to install, locks on her doors and the whole bit. And she's standing there watching us the whole time. And it's our first job. And she's just standing there with her arms folded. And she says, I bet you guys do this all the time. And my partner I was with. But you know what? One of the most amazing things as entrepreneurs is that when you get paid for doing something that is an entrepreneurial activity and you get paid. So when we got paid, I'd bring the little money home, right, to Brenda, lay it on the bed, and say, look, honey, look what we did. And she's like, yeah, let's go get some Chinese food. Being in control of your own life. Ladies and gentlemen who are listening to us, this is about taking control of your own life.
Rick, can you put a link in the chat for Surge 365 for more information?
I can.
That way, for listeners, if they want more information.
I'll put the where they can watch a short little video.
Perfect.
SurgePro365.com. Oh, I should say for more information. More information. Absolutely. Oops. Request fail. I probably can't use www. I don't know. It's like, no. Let's see if this works. Request failed with status code something. Mary, see if you can put in searchpro365.com. Oh, maybe I got to put HTTPS.
Let's do this.
Hold on, I'll try it. Let's see.
Oh, you're good.
Hey guys,
Yes.
while we're on the call here today, I just got a flyer in the mail. One of our suppliers, owning the travel business, as we do, our travel agency, we have one supplier. It's called Diamond Tours, and they do bus tours all over the country. Now, they have a tour set up from Buffalo, New York. I can go to Charleston, South Carolina, and go. Or we have people go to down to Florida, St. Augustine, down to Miami. I just got one for Biloxi and New Biloxi. What is Biloxi, Mississippi, and New Orleans. A bus tour that leaves here and it's going to goes to all the way to New Orleans. They're going to have a riverboat cruise on it. They're going to
Wow.
stay at the visit of the world class of um, um, Mardi Gras program, and of course they have some stop and a little bit of gambling there too. And it's a bus tour, and the cost for it's just to share this with you, it's incredibly. Everything's included, your meals, excursions, and everything like that. And it's a trip in April. They've got it planned right now. It's a 9 day, 8 night program from Buffalo, New York, roughly $1,100 a person.
So it goes from Buffalo to where? To New Orleans?
Buffalo, New York to New Orleans, and it goes through to Biloxi. That's Mississippi, I think.
Yes.
Biloxi, and those are the two final spots where you spend all your time and energy besides the travel there. And included in the package is a riverboat cruise, going to the French Quarters in New Orleans, doing some gambling in Biloxi, and enjoy Mardi Gras World. And it's just incredible. All by coach, and it leaves Buffalo. It's all set up. And there's trips in February, April, October, and December.
What's the cruise line?
It's not a cruise. This is a bus tour.
Oh, a bus. Oh.
So, um, for that reason, what I did, a friend of mine and our church hall puts out on the counter. There's this senior citizen center in our area, and this friend of mine asked me if I'd be interested in maybe running a little ad in that. And what the heck, I did. Actually, I started doing it at a church to help support my mom's church. And, they had the brochure, church bulletin every week. So during COVID, there wasn't much travel going on, but I kept the ad in there. And we've had people come back to us since then and ask for some tours and stuff. Well, then I carried on. The same company that publishes the church bulletin has now got one that goes to this West Seneca Senior Center. Well, the guy who's the salesperson for this organization, the printing, the brochures, called me and said, I got two kids going to go off to college next year, and I need to get some more funding going so I can do that. And so he looked at it with a video, search video, and now he and his wife are interested. They're going to join us in the travel industry. But he
Nice.
had a choice. When we're right now finishing the details, I asked him, I said, well, Chris, how do you want to pay for this? Do you want to go and pay retail? Do you want to pay discount? Or do you want to do it by wholesale?
Whoa. That's good.
So,
I think I'll choose wholesale.
yeah. So he, for the going on his vacation and the cost of the trip, we put it together. He'll be registering. He's the investment of the price of a phone call, which he's gonna spend in his trip anyways. But now he's gonna buy it at wholesale because he's become one of us.
Wow, that's awesome.
Lives in Ohio.
Wow, what amazing.
Yeah,
What an
they're going on
amazing
a
story.
cruise. By the way, don't have any passports, so because Carnival and our relations and everything, they're going on a 3-stop cruise to Aruba in July, and with the family, they're going. He wants to be in the sun on a beach, so we got him sun on the beach. Going on
Oh
a
man.
family of 4.
Wow.
So, also in the chat is our new home. We are creating a whole community environment for all the shows on Optimize My Life Network on the Skylar Network. And coming up, we're going to be doing a monthly event. I'm throwing Rick, you're under the bus for this one. I haven't told you yet. We're going to do a monthly meet and greet. So people who have questions or want to get to know something more about one of our hosts, we're going to be doing a monthly meet and greet so that you get to know them on a personal level.
Cool. I think it's great. Life is a personal level.
It is. There'll be
This is a
there's
personal level.
it is. And you get to put a face with a name. And on the Skylar Network, which is where our community is, there will be newsletters and blogs based on each show. There will also be a separate community for each show. So you can either join the whole Optimize My Life Network community, or you can join different shows to get more information about different events, different things that are going on, things like that.
I think it's awesome.
So what we've done here today is we've got a little outline of explanation of all kinds of ways how travel in your affiliation association, either through the Hope Collection or the Golden Rule Society, or through any of our businesses that we are out promoting and allowing people to be partake in, we can make this a better world in so many different ways. And so that's when we're making life interesting and fulfilling. And we're so glad that everybody who joined us today has been here. Hoping your day and your week turns out to be a great one.
Bye for now from Paige.
I still want those pancakes, Rick.
Woo! Yeah.
Talk to you later, guys. Thank you, Mary.
Yep. Have a good day. Have a good night. We'll see y'all back here next week. Bye for now.